Well, this is Monday Mornings with Matt and Kevin. We hope you all are having a wonderful Monday, except, well, unfortunately, my co host cannot join us today because my schedule has been very conflicted lately. Just had a baby on Friday, and so it's been a bit hectic the last week or so. And that has made it so it's been tough to get on with Matt because of time differences, etc. So unfortunately, Matt's not here this week due to my fault. But I certainly hope that we will be back together next Sunday and doing our normal thing. But I figured I'd still pop on and put out a show on my own. So hopefully you guys are again enjoying your Monday morning. I'm actually recording this on a Monday morning, which is unusual. Um, Very rainy, kind of gross, cloudy, gray day today. Cold, really for August. I think it's going to be around, I don't know, 60 degrees. I think in Celsius now. I know. Sorry to all the Americans out there. I know you hate me for that, but I do think in Celsius and in the metric system. It is better, by the way. I think I've argued that with Matt at some point about the metric system, and it's one of those kind of funny things that it is. It's kind of like this country pride that in the U.S. you use inches and feet and Fahrenheit, and you just think, of course, it must be the best. And then you come to Germany and live here for 8 years. It's like, nah, the metric system's so much better. I mean, I love America and I love so much of what America does, but that ain't one of them, guys, and until you've really truly used both of them, you can't say, and I can really say, I spent, what, 25 years or whatever with one, and now 8 years with another, and Celsius is better. Yeah, fight me, I guess. But speaking of things that America does extremely well, that, of course, would be Disney. Disney is just the cream of the crop when we're talking about you know, good moral companies and companies that this channel really roots for and pushes and hopes that everyone watches. Yeah, I'm just kidding, obviously, guys. Here's another reason today we're going to talk a bit about Disney and why. There's actually a couple different topics here. First of all, how Disney is pretty evil, but secondly, how you have to be really, really careful about the small print when you sign a contract, and this is actually pretty extreme. This is from BBC.com. The title: Disney Plus terms prevent allergy death lawsuit. Disney says so. Unfortunately, a woman died from a peanut allergy back in 2023. Obviously, very um, tragic. She died at the Disney World Resort. Part of what Disney is arguing is that restaurant itself is not owned by Disney or run by Disney, even though it's in Disney World. And so they're saying that the man cannot sue due to that. He's trying to sue for, I believe, 50,000. Yeah, $50,000 plus legal costs. So Mr. Piccolo is the husband of the woman who died. Um, Now Disney wants the case to be halted, and or it's in arbitration right now. Or no, I'm sorry, they want it to be resolved outside of court in a process called arbitration. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The entertainment company argues it cannot be taken to court because, in its terms of use, it says users agree to settle any disputes with the company via arbitration. Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. If it's in the terms of use, then if you sign a contract, then you should follow the contract, right? Okay. Yeah, that sounds fair. It continues. It says Mr. Piccolo agreed to these terms of use when he signed up to a 1 month free trial of its streaming service, Disney Plus, in 2019. Okay, so let's go back a bit. Okay, so this man's wife died from a peanut allergy at a Disney World restaurant. Now, Disney is arguing that they cannot bring Disney to court because, in the terms of use that he signed in 2019 for a 1 month free trial, forces them to bring it to arbitration rather than to court. As Mr. Piccolo's lawyers call Disney's arguments preposterous and insane. They say Disney's case is based on the incredible argument that any person who signs up for a Disney Plus account, even free trials that are not extended beyond the trial period, will have forever waived the right to a jury trial. Now, this is probably just someone, a lawyer in the Disney offices, just, trying to throw a curveball, obviously trying to get his company out of trouble, trying to save the money. But I wonder, did they consider that this would get put out to the media? Because first of all, how much money is Disney bringing in? Is it, if a lady dies there, shouldn't you compensate the family? I mean, that seems pretty fair. I mean, 50,000, this isn't saying 50,000,000. I mean, you hear like what they did to Alex Jones for saying that, was it Sandy Hook wasn't real. What I think they didn't they find him something like $50 billion. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but something like that, like $50 billion, and for something that he said. And it sounds like what he said was really terrible. Okay, fair enough. But 50 billion for something you said. Now, this lady died, even though apparently at the restaurant that she told them that she had a very strong peanut allergy, and still her dish was made, obviously, or touched peanuts, and she died at the restaurant at Disney. Now, $50,000 is a lot for you and me, but coming from Disney for a woman who died at your restaurant, that seems pretty fair. I mean, it doesn't sound that extreme to me. I mean, that sounds like okay, Disney should just pay it, say, hey, we're really sorry. And this is a terrible thing that happened at our restaurant, our mistake. Here's $50,000. Come on. It's like, they got to be making billions, even though they are failing. Like, maybe that's a big topic too, because they actually are in a really bad rut in terms of movies. They've had a couple big ones lately, a couple big cartoons, but they had, a couple years where almost every movie they produced was a dud. Pixar has been a dud. Star Wars has been terrible, etc. And so maybe they're panicking a little bit, but even still, $50,000 for a company like Disney is that's chump change. But you would have thought then, that they would have thought, considered that this might go to media and just first of all think of how insane it is that you're not just willing to give the money, but also that you're trying to get out of it by your terms of service in a free trial agreement. So this guy, he got a free trial for a month on Disney Plus. Sounds like he must not have gotten more than that. So props to him for not paying Disney more than a free trial. So he didn't even pay for it. He got a free trial. And in the terms of use agreement, he clicked on it, and apparently it says that you cannot bring Disney to court. Now, I don't imagine that, you know, was intended to mean that if your wife dies at a restaurant in Disney World, you can't bring them to court. So I think it's probably just, they're trying to, you know, throw a deep pass into the end zone and hope, you get a touchdown. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But it did really make me consider how often do we, myself completely included, have these contracts for whatever phone service or bills or tax or whatever, and you get these terms of use, terms of agreement, terms of service, whatever you want to call them, and scroll through till the end and click okay. And how many times possibly do these companies have some agreement where it says that if you choke on peanuts and die, or sorry, if you're allergic to them and die, then we may not pay you anything because you cannot bring us to court on it. Absolutely insane. But it is a lesson. I think it really is a lesson that we really should probably pay more attention to that stuff. And they make it purposely long. This is like what happens in Congress, right? They when they write these bills, these spending bills, especially. So you have a spending bill where they want to spend 500 billion and they're going to send half of it to Ukraine. Yeah, right. They're going to send some of it to Israel. They're going to send of it some of it to Pakistan for lesbian gender studies. That's has actually happened. Um, and then they're going to send the rest of it to their own, each senator or each congressman and woman who is signing it has their own little, I don't know, agendas, and they're going to get paid by it in one way or another. They're all corrupt, or most of them, 95% of them for sure, are going to be paid some way or another out of these spending bills. And so the way that they do that, so that they don't get called out by the people who they serve, they are our employees. They work for us, for the tax-paying people. In order to not get caught by them, they just make them 500 pages long. So they make them so long, so they must have some people, that's all they do. That's their job, is to put in as much superfluous fluff as you can to make it that no one is going to read it. So you just have this, lawyer type wording that's going to make it like, okay, you get past page 10, you're like, okay, man, I can't do this. And because of that, people don't read it. Now, what this might be an actual benefit from like an AI. Now, I'm very much against AI in general, But if you can use AI in this case to be able to say you get one of these bills, it's 500 pages long, you stick it in a scanner, send it up to, artificial intelligence and have them, put in keywords or something, say, okay, now I need to learn about this, this, and this, find out the important stuff. I bet you that's actually going to help. I'm hoping that technology, again, though I don't think AI should exist, since it does in this case, I hope that maybe that will actually help and it will keep things a bit more honest in our government. Now, is that going to happen? Not likely. I don't think our government will probably ever be honest. And I don't think it probably has been for, I don't know, hundreds of years, possibly for sure, decades. Um, but it is just, again, you just see how these companies will do anything they possibly can to screw you over. They there is no morality at all, none. Especially these big companies, they couldn't care less. I mean, it is just totally, this is you're just a number. You're really just revenue. You're paying them. Here's my money to Disney, and that's all they care about. And that's I guess it's capitalism, and I understand that companies are around to make money. They're not there to just be moral. They're not the Catholic Church or what the Catholic Church should be, and then to save souls and be kind and charitable. But there still should be a basic morality in business, right? There should be a basic care of the people around you. The basic idea that, okay, if someone tragically died and you have the money to be able to help support this grieving husband and likely family, then do it. I mean, come on. I just it's not that extreme of a thing to say, and it just shows you such a sad world, such a sad company. I mean, and you get these behemoths that are just deeply immoral, deeply, and they get to where they are because they're deeply immoral. If you have a mom and pop shop that actually cares a little bit about you and sees you and knows your name, they probably struggle every day, because they're not psychopaths, because they actually will give a buck to someone who needs it. And that's the people we should absolutely support. And I think that's where we're at. Capitalism is fine as long as the people are educated enough and moral enough to make sure that if the company is deeply immoral, you just say, no, I don't want to give you my money. That's how it should work. Now, what they've learned, that this globalistic idea of let's make the companies as big as we possibly can because we can, there's not regulation on a lot of these things. And then we prey on the consumer stupidity, and that's typically how it is, or not even stupidity, sometimes stupidity, but also just their naivete, the idea that, I'm sure these companies, they're not evil. They're not Disney's not evil. Amazon's not evil. The people running the companies aren't evil. I actually beg to differ. I think they are actually evil. Now, each individual person at the top, no, not likely. Maybe some, yeah, sure. I think some of them are truly psychopathic, and probably the owners, people who get to the very top, are usually insane or psychopath, type people. I mean, look at Elon Musk. I don't know if he's a psychopath, but he's definitely insane. I mean, and definitely on the spectrum, as they would say. So maybe actually maybe I shouldn't say insane. He is on the spectrum. Different, and so I think you have to be that to in order to get to a certain place. And some of that is being genius, some of it is being hardworking, some of it is oftentimes being psychopathic or sociopathic, at least, where you'll do anything, and you will trample anyone, and there's no heart, there's no care, there's no morality. And that's a lot of where we're at. And that's why it shows you again, that this idea that capitalism is just this, heaven given, system, it just isn't true. Now, I like it generally better than of course better than communism, of course better than state run socialism. But if you're looking at, say, distributism, or if you're looking at, a church run socialism, or a socialism where you actually have a, combined church and state, say, so the Catholic Church, say, back in, let's say, France, 400 years ago, 500 years ago. And if that was more of a, mixed system, I suppose, some capitalism, some socialism, but, the people who took care of, say, the poor and the elderly, the elderly were taken care of by their families, the poor were taken care of by the church, the sick were taken care of by the church, which was taken care of by the moral donations of the people. And I'm sure there were times where that was also aided by taxes from the state, but generally the taxes from the state, which I think is actually fairly new. If I remember reading, not new, I suppose. I mean, 800 years, I suppose. I think it was during perhaps one of the Crusades where that really began in England or France, I forget, where they decided to go and tax all the people in order to pay for their wars. May not even have been a crusade. I don't know. I read in the last few months something about that, but interesting enough that the system used to work pretty well, I think, and there are other side effects from that. I'm sure there were many people who didn't have Medicare or Medicaid or whatever you want to call it, socialized healthcare. And if they weren't in a moral state with a good church and good, if you couldn't go to the sisters at the hospital to take care of you, or you couldn't go to the church and beg for the priest to give you alms, then yeah, you probably die. And I think you see a lot of this. Look at Russia. When the Bolsheviks overthrew the Catholic monarchy, or the Orthodox monarchy, they, millions and millions of people died like almost immediately. A lot of them from hunger because the state doesn't care. The state's not moral. The state's not out there to save you or to help you. The state is there to help themselves. They want to boost their own economy, etc. And I think that's kind of the overall arching story of where we've come, and how, again, I think capitalism is not really the answer. I did want to talk about too a little bit of what's going on in the U.S. If I can find it here. Sorry, guys. The elections obviously coming up pretty soon, and exactly how it's looking right now. So obviously, Trump was beating Biden by a lot in the polls. But why can I not find this? Um, I think he was at one point, he was 6 to 7 points ahead of Joe Biden. Ah, here we go. And reading right now, I'll be looking at, what's it called? 538.com. I think this is, what is wrong with my brain? What's the guy's name? It doesn't matter. This is 538.com. Latest polls, you see that Trump has taken a bit of a dive while Harris has gone up. I saw a poll on Twitter where they were watching like live projection. I don't know how they do this, but anyway, pretty much, pretty much every day or so they take a poll one way or another, and they're saying that Harris's polls always drop dramatically after she talks. And it shows you exactly why she's not talking. She's not doing any interviews. She's not doing, she's going to possibly do one debate where she's likely going to be absolutely trashed by Trump. And yeah, it shows you exactly what's going on. But it's interesting that right now they have, overall on this website, Harris ahead by about 3 points. And something that I heard earlier is that oftentimes, or most of the modern um, elections, that the Democrats need to hold at least a 6 or 7 point lead in the polls before going into election day. But I also think too we need to remember that at about this time in 2016, Trump was down in the polls by like 30% or something like that, something really remarkable. Um, and they just got it wrong. The polls were just wrong. They I think it's mostly because people just didn't want to say maybe that they were voting for Trump, or maybe I honestly don't really know. I was over here in Germany freshly. I just moved here, and I remember everyone talking about it, like, why is he even running? He doesn't have a chance. Why wasn't it Ted Cruz? Who would have been a better possibility for everyone? There was no possibility that it would be Trump. None, like none. No one thought it would, and the polls said the same. And then he won. So honestly, I think polls can be a bit silly. I think they don't really matter that much, and I think what has been my way of kind of trying to feel things out, feel out, okay, what, because the polls, they're interesting, but I would recommend that if you're getting worried about the election, which I think some people are, and I am sometimes, I have to keep telling myself not to be worried. Go and listen sometimes to let's say alternative media with a left leaning perspective, and just see what are their talking points, how do they sound, what are they saying, and that gives you a pretty good idea of how people are feeling. And I think that the Trump side on the extremes was really freaking out for a while. I think Trump had a couple really bad weeks. So you saw the people who worship Trump just kind of getting really defensive and mean and nasty and just dumb. And I think that now I've seen that a little bit on the left as well. Okay, they're always nasty, mean, and dumb, but a little more than normal. And I think if you just listen to them, you can kind of hear they will say all the things. Oh, Harris is doing really well, but they all know that she's a terrible candidate. I mean, really bad. That she's only in it. She's only ahead in the polls because she's Democrat and female, and not Trump. And I think that when it comes down to it, she's just she's you know trying to already separate herself from Joe Biden, even though she can't. She's the vice president, and she's trying to act like she's not part of that administration. She's saying, when I get in, I'm going to fix the border. Like, well, um, you are in, you are the border czar according to your own president. I mean, it's a very strange way that she's tried to approach things. I saw her the other day, and Trump did a really good job of showing this. She had another I don't know, she was doing a rally, and she had this entire rally. I don't know, 15, 20 times she complained about the current economy and how she's going to fix it. It's like, um, hello, you're you're part of the problem. You're the vice president for this economy. Bonkers. Anyway, I think that I actually feel pretty confident about it right now. I think, yeah, who knows what's going to happen in October. I think it could happen that Biden steps down or dies or is kicked out, and Harris becomes the first female president, and that will give her obviously some more momentum. So it makes a lot of sense. It's going to happen in October, but the Democratic convention is coming up, and well, we got some more to talk about that, but that will be in a upcoming podcast. And I can tell you right now, it's satanic, like actually satanic. So if anyone was thinking still that maybe I'll vote for the Democrats and I'm a Catholic, no, I will tell you definitely not. And you'll find that out in upcoming podcasts. Well, thank you all for listening. Again, sorry that Matt's not here. My fault. He should be here next week, and we'll be back with Monday mornings with Matt and Kevin then. And until then, we hope you guys have a wonderful week. Enjoy your August. I know a lot of people heading back to school. We ask that you pray for all the kids and especially for the teachers who are going to have to deal with the kids for a year. The sisters, the teaching brothers, the priests, of course, the lay teachers as well. Pray for them, and also please pray for two special intentions. I had someone near and dear ask for prayers for two special intentions. That's all I know or can say. And so if you could add, just say two special intentions to your prayers, let's storm heaven for them because um, I've been told they're very important. And I know then that they must be because of who this request comes from. So please pray for two special intentions. And I do also want to say that we will get back soon to more interviews, to getting back to interviewing priests. I've sent out quite a few emails in the last few days. We want to get back to the normal style stuff. We'll keep doing things like me talking about current topics. I plan to do that as well. But we also, of course, want to get back to interviewing Father McKenna and Father Benedict Hughes, hopefully other priests as well. And just so you know, we are planning on that. It's been a hectic few weeks with the baby and whatnot, but now she's here, and we should be getting back to normal now that school time is starting and summer is over. Though in Germany, summer is pretty much just maybe halfway through. It starts in August and ends in second week of September. So different here, but in the U.S., I know you guys are pretty much done with it. So